So one day back in April, I decided to peruse the internet, as I often do, and I see an ad pop up for a screening of Megalopolis. I had almost dismissed it outright because I had already endured Megalopolis before. But right before going back to surfing the web, I noticed it said, with special guest appearance by Francis Ford Coppola himself at the Coolidge Corner Theater. Coolidge Corner, if you haven't heard of it, is this really cool indie theater in Brookline, Massachusetts, where they do all sorts of screenings and events. They serve booze and everything, you should go. But as I go to buy my ticket, it says it was sold out. I was crushed. But I held faith that maybe someone would cancel and a seat would become available. And a week or so later, I was sitting on a plane coming home from a trip, and right before takeoff, I refreshed the page, and what do you know? They were available again. I frantically buy the ticket mere minutes before I lose connection, and in turn, my one chance to attend the screening. So about a week later, I head over to the good old Coolidge, like 3 hours early, and am one of the first in line. Didn't stand a chance in direct sunlight, but it was all worth it for Francis. And it paid off because I scored a seat near the front. Well, a hush comes over the crowd, Megalopolis comes on the screen, I endured for a second time, and when the lights go up, I turn around and notice that none other than Coppola himself was standing in the back. Not saying anything, just watching, observing, seeing how an audience reacts to the film he puts so much time and all of his money into. Like all of it. He comes on stage to a thunderous applause, but rather than talking about the film, he instead mostly talks about society and how we can improve it, with a whiteboard and everything to jot down all these society-changing ideas.
6 days a week, and then there was a day off, then it was 5 days a week, and you had to work 12 hours, and then you had to work 10 hours.
Eventually he brings up his background in theater and says, you know what, let's have some young actors come up here for some theater games. Well, I waste no time darting up there with a few other willing participants. He explains that we're supposed to throw a fake ball around and make a guttural noise when we receive said fake ball. While all this was happening, the only thought going through my head was, alright, just throwing a fake ball around with 5-time Oscar winner Francis Ford Coppola. No big deal. When it was all said and done and I wasn't being directed by the guy who directed The Godfather, I shook his hand and got off stage, leaning to the guy next to me saying, what the f*** just happened? Eventually he opens up the floor to take questions from the audience, which of course I wanted to ask him something, but what? I didn't want to waste the one shot I may ever get to speak with the legend himself, but I finally decided on one. I'm working on a proof of concept short for a feature I wrote and wanted to ask him for advice in developing it. I originally didn't want to ask him something like that since I was worried it'd come off as vain talking about myself and my projects, but a chance to get directing advice from the master, how could I turn that up?
I actually wanted to touch on what you were saying earlier about making a film is the best experience and the best way to gain knowledge. I'm right now in pre-production of a boxing film that I'm making. I've never made a boxing film before. I've never hired this many extras, and while it does seem daunting at times, I just have a story to tell. So do you have any advice on just how to manage it and how not to be overwhelmed with the whole project?
Is it a feature or a short?
It's a proof of concept for a feature, so it's a short, but hopefully it'll be a feature.
Well, you know, what I would say is, basically, my theory is that we're all geniuses, and I mean you're a genius. So the more personal you make your film, the better it's going to be, because there's only one of you, and that means there'll only be one film like that, because you're making something, you're not trying to do something to sell it to Warner Brothers, or which is, so what in your personal life can you relate that metaphor of what boxing is? Boxing is a conflict between two trained individuals. And so I tell what I told my kids, make art personal, make it relate to something that because there's only one of you. And if you make it very personal, then there'll only be one film like that. So try to make it as much that what you're trying to say with the film, try to personalize it as much as you can. If that's, I'm sure you're doing that.
Attempting.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
So if I don't make this film, I just lied to Francis Ford Coppola. You are now all witnesses. But Francis, yes, we're on a first-name basis now because we've played theater games together. Eat your heart out, Patrick. If in the off chance you or your many famous relatives see this, because there's a lot of them, I want to thank you for the advice you've given me, and now I can share it with my audience. From one genius to another, your words not mine, it was an absolute honor.